I still remember the exact second everything changed. Her voice didn't shake, didn't hesitate, it just cut through the room like glass. "I'd rather die than marry you," she said, loud enough that the people around us went silent. I was standing there holding a small box in my hand, the engagement ring still inside, feeling like the ground had disappeared beneath me. What she didn't know was that I had already decided something in that moment too. If she could end us so brutally, then I would take back everything I had built for her that same night. We had been together for almost 4 years. It started like most relationships do. Late-night calls, shared jokes, promises that felt permanent at the time. I was working as a project coordinator. She was finishing her degree in business. I supported her through exams, paid for extra courses, even helped her with rent when things got tight. Everyone around us assumed we were heading straight toward marriage. Her parents liked me. Mine adored her. On paper it looked perfect. But paper doesn't show distance growing in silence or the way someone stops looking at you the same way. By the time I proposed, I had already invested more than just emotions. I had paid the advance for a small apartment we were supposed to move into after marriage. I even added her name to some shared accounts we created for future planning. She insisted on it at the time, saying it would make us feel more connected. I trusted her completely. That trust was expensive. Not just financially but mentally too. I started shaping my entire life around her choices, her timing, her dreams. I thought that's what love was supposed to look like. But slowly, things shifted. She started spending more time on her phone, turning it face down whenever I entered the room. She would go out with friends more often, always coming back late with vague explanations. "Just dinner," she'd say. "Nothing serious." I wanted to believe her, so I did, even when it didn't feel right. The engagement was supposed to be our happiest phase, but instead it felt like I was chasing someone who was already halfway gone. I just didn't have proof yet, only a growing sense of unease I kept ignoring. One evening, I noticed a notification pop up on her laptop while she was in the shower. It wasn't intentional snooping. I was just moving it off the bed. The message preview read, "We need to talk about us before she finds out." My chest tightened instantly. When she came out, I asked casually, "Who's US?" She laughed it off. "Just my class group project stuff," she said too quickly. But her eyes didn't meet mine. That night, I barely slept, replaying the words over and over in my head, trying to convince myself it was nothing serious. A few days later, I overheard her on a call in the kitchen. She didn't notice I had come home early. "I can't keep delaying it," she whispered. Then she lowered her voice further, but I caught enough. "He's already planning the wedding." When she turned and saw me standing there, she froze for half a second before smiling like nothing had happened. "You scared me," she said. I asked, "Who were you talking to?" She replied instantly, "My cousin, family drama." I nodded, but something inside me stopped believing her completely from that moment. I started paying attention to everything after that. Small things first, how she guarded her phone, how she suddenly changed passwords, how she reacted when I casually asked about the wedding timeline. She would get irritated over simple questions. One night I said, "Are you still sure about us?" She sighed and said, "Why do you always overthink everything?" That sentence stayed with me longer than it should have. It made me feel like the problem wasn't what I was seeing. It was me noticing it at all. Still, I couldn't shake what I had heard and seen. Then came the dinner. Her friends were there, loud table, expensive restaurant, celebrating one of their promotions. I joined late after work. At first, everything seemed normal until someone joked, "So when's the wedding?" I smiled, waiting for her answer. Instead, she leaned back and said casually, "Honestly, I'd rather die than marry him right now." The table laughed awkwardly, thinking it was dark humor. But I didn't laugh. I just looked at her. And in that moment, she didn't even try to correct it. She just looked away like I wasn't even there. We argued outside the restaurant. The night air was cold, but her words were colder. "You're making this a bigger deal than it is," she said. I asked her directly, "Do you even want this marriage anymore?" That's when she snapped. "I told you already, I'd rather die than marry you. Why can't you understand simple things?" There was no hesitation, no regret, just certainty. I stood there quietly, feeling something in me detach completely. Not anger first. Clarity. A very sharp kind of clarity I had never felt before in our entire relationship. Later that night, I found out the truth wasn't just emotional distance. It was planned exit. A mutual friend, unaware of our argument, mentioned she had been seen meeting someone regularly for career guidance. But the timing didn't add up. When I checked our shared financial app, I noticed small transfers she had been making into a separate account for months. When I confronted her again, she finally said it. I needed options. I wasn't sure about us anymore. Then she added quietly, and I don't want to be tied down to one life. That was the final confirmation I needed. I didn't shout. I didn't beg. I just asked, so everything, the engagement, the plans, what was it to you? She looked at me and said, it was real, until it wasn't. I nodded slowly, then said, okay. She didn't expect that reaction. I think she expected anger, tears, maybe denial. Instead, I felt strangely calm. I told her, if you're out emotionally, then I'm out completely too. And for the first time that night, she looked uncertain, like she had miscalculated something important. I went home and started taking everything back. I called the apartment office and canceled the move-in arrangement. I froze the joint account and transferred my remaining funds out. I placed the engagement ring on the table and sent her a single message, you don't want this life, so I'm not funding it anymore. Then I left the apartment keys with the landlord. It wasn't revenge. It was reversal. Everything that had been shared was now separated. By morning, she was calling repeatedly, but I didn't answer a single call. The fallout came quickly. Her parents called me first, confused and worried. I simply said, ask her what she said at dinner. Silence followed on the line. Then came messages from her friends, some apologizing, some trying to explain her behavior. But I wasn't interested in explanations anymore. She eventually showed up at my workplace, asking to talk. You're really doing this over one sentence? She asked. I replied, no. I'm doing this because that sentence finally matched everything you've been showing me for months. Over the next weeks, life slowly reset itself. The apartment deposit was partially recovered, the accounts were cleanly separated, and the wedding plans were officially cancelled. It hurt, but not in the way I expected. It was more like withdrawal than heartbreak. I spent time rebuilding routines, gym, work, reconnecting with friends I had neglected. I realized how much of myself I had paused waiting for someone who was already halfway out the door. The absence didn't destroy me. It just revealed how much space I had given away. Looking back, I don't think the relationship ended because of one sentence. That sentence just removed the filter. When someone tells you they'd rather die than be with you, believe them, but also believe what they were already doing before they said it. I didn't lose a future that night. I took back the one I was slowly giving away. And sometimes, the most powerful ending isn't walking away in anger. It's calmly reclaiming everything you stopped valuing yourself for.